Right, so how am I going to do this? Do I do this with a proper intro? Or I don't know.
Yeah, go on, do a proper intro. Tell them who I am and what we're talking about.
Right. Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv. And this time I'm speaking to my great friend James Court from the Court Case podcast, who's returning to chat with me about going out on a trip with his co-host Sweet Tea.
Yes, yeah, we went to the podcast show in London, which is the first of its kind global podcast like festival slash event. It was in Islington in London.
Right. So what was it? Well, in Islington, in London. I'm trying to think where that would actually be held itself in Islington.
It was in the Business Design Centre. That's what the place was called.
Right. Okay. Easy to find then, obviously.
Oh yeah, well easy to find, and they had huge podcast show things up around the place to help you find it really easily.
It's like going to one of these concerts where you got these big, enormous signs with this person who you're going to see.
That's exactly what it was like. Yeah.
Right.
We did we put a video, I think, on our Instagram, which showed some of the stuff of what it looked like that you could see on the Court Case Podcast Instagram account to get a sort of feel of what it looked like.
Yep. Easy to find. Just go to Instagram and look for Court Case Podcast. Have you got TikTok yet as well? I think you've got that as well, haven't you?
We do, yeah. And we've only just started like redoing it and redoing sort of regular videos. We try and post a couple videos a week, but we spoke to someone at the podcast show that works with TikTok, and they said you need to be posting like 3 videos a day to have a chance of like going viral. So that's, you almost would need to like hire an extra person to get content that regular out.
Yeah. Be a bit like Gil, because he's got somebody, the Mind Buzz guy, Gil. He's got somebody that helps him with that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I had the money, I'd hire my own apprentice and just have him doing that sort of stuff.
Yep. I have these images of Gil just feeding his son every now and again and letting him off and just saying every now and again, get that promotion out there. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Good reason to have children.
Oh, 100%. Free slave labor.
Yeah. Oh, is that the police at the door? Was it your first con then, James?
It was my first. Well, actually, no. Last October, me and Sweet Tea went to a very small one in London that was literally at a bar that these people called the BBF or BBE. And it was literally just a handful of different podcasts. Some of them did live little talks. The others just listened, and it was a small little network. I met an editor there that has edited a couple episodes of Court Case. I don't know if you've listened to any of the more recent ones in season 3, but sometimes there'll be an advert from an editor in there. I met him at that event, and sometimes when I'm really busy with my other work podcast, I'll get him to edit a court case for us. But yeah, I went to that small one, which was quite nice. But this was just on another level. It was like a proper huge, like, it was like a Comic Con, but for podcasts.
Wow. So you went there then, and you go there, and it's just this stuff going on everywhere, is there? Or is it some specific event going in one place, or was it in different places and you had to pick and choose which room you'd go into or whatever?
So there was a schedule. They also had a dedicated app on their phone, on your phone, and it was over 2 days, and there was a schedule, and there was about 4 different theaters, and there was about 5 or 6 different other rooms where there would be talks going on at different times about different subjects, and so you could choose what sort of talk you wanted to see and learn a lot of stuff. So there was those going on, and then if you weren't in a talk, there was a huge massive room where placed people like Spotify, Acast, Global, BBC, all of these huge big brands. They all had booths to talk about, so you could talk to staff members about what they were doing in podcasting and Spotify and stuff like that. But some of the talks were really impressive, and they had some really big names at some of these talks.
Yeah, because I noticed Fern Cotton was there and Louis Theroux. I'm guessing that you saw both of those two with their talks.
Yes, I'm a huge Louis Theroux fan. He was the first talk we saw. His talk. It was called "Interview with the Interviewer," and it was a woman interviewing Louis Theroux, but also they were interviewing a woman called Emily Maitlis. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a BBC interviewer. Most famously, recently, she gave the Prince Andrew "I Don't Sweat" interview at Buckingham Palace.
Wow.
So it was her and Louis both talking, and they both have separate podcasts, and they were just discussing how it's different than, their experience in broadcast media. Acast, the CEO of Acast, gave a talk, and he had Fern Cotton and Gary Lineker on with him, and that was a really good, interesting one. There was a one that we went to called "The Power of Creative Collaboration," and that had a woman called Guyavana Fletcher on. She's fairly famous. She's married to one of the members of McFly. In 2020, she was the Queen of the Jungle in I'm a Celeb.
All right.
But she had a podcast, and she was on with Gabby Logan, who is a popular sports commentator.
Yep.
And she's also got a podcast. And that talk wasn't as good because it wasn't as much about creative collaboration as it was like, oh, what famous guests have we had on ours? It felt like a bit of an ego scrub. But the less famous talks, personally, I found were a lot better. There was one talk that didn't have any famous people in it, and I came away from that talk so inspired and just affected by it that it's just given me a whole new lease on podcasting. It was called Finding My Tribe, and it was a guy from one podcast called My Dad Wrote a Porno, I believe his podcast was called. Yeah. And he was sat down and he was talking to these three people from three separate podcasts. They weren't famous at all. It was a podcast called That UFO Podcast, a guy called Andy, a podcast called Roll Britannia, which was a D&D podcast, and a woman called Joanna from a podcast called Women's Brew, which was a podcast about women that enjoy beer. And it was about how podcasts of such niche subjects you would think would not get that much of an audience, of how they can gather these big communities. Now, all three of these podcasts have about 2 million listeners a year. And there are such small niches. This woman's got a podcast, it's just about women that drink beer. And I didn't think many women drink beer or enthusiastic about beer as a hobby, but she's got 2 million listeners. And also they are doing these podcasts, the guy that does the UFO one, he records his podcast in his shed in his garden, just him. And it completely inspired me, because it's nice enough walking into these talks and hearing these celebrities that chat. That's nice enough. But when you're seeing these people that are just like you, that don't have a following, they're doing it from their shed, it started as a hobby, and they've gotten 2 million listeners, and they're just talking about what they love. It was amazing. It was so inspiring.
Well, the thing is, I mean, we've both said this before, haven't we? The difference is that on a radio station, on normal radio, they've got a team of producers there, and it's all about the amount of people that they can get. So radio stations will pick a certain format that they can follow, and so these niche programming wouldn't be in a normal radio station. So that's where podcast is a great thing to have, because you can hit that niche audience that can't be hit by regular radio.
100%. And that is what Fern Cotton said herself during her talk, because obviously she'd done BBC Radio 1 for a long time. She's when she started her podcast, she didn't realize it was no rules. You can talk about whatever you want, you're not regulated, whereas radio is so heavily regulated. And so it's just, it's amazing. But so there were these amazing talks, and there was a few others. We didn't have time to go to all of them. It would be impossible because there were talks going on at the same time. I had a colleague with me called Megan who works on the Search for the Soulful Leader with me. She managed to meet a couple of idols, podcasters that she listens to. Like there was a feminist podcast called Exactly with a woman called Florence Given.
Yep.
She managed to meet her and get her to sign her book. But me and Sweet Tea went to a presenting masterclass where a woman taught us like how to, you know, present better and things like that. Because Sweet Tea sometimes struggles with like being authentic and feeling like, you know, not feeling like embarrassed and stuff when she presents. So she found that one really helpful. And then it was just when you weren't in these talks, it was just going around and networking with people and making new friends and meeting other people that were doing the same as you. We got some new leaflets printed, especially for the event, and we went around and, you know, gave them out to people. There was lots of freebies, free swag and stuff. The Spotify booth had a tote bag maker, so we got like a court case tote bag made.
I saw that. That was sweet.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Yeah. There
you go.
Which is nice. Yeah, it was just incredible. And I wanted, when the podcast show emailed me a few days before and said, like, you know, would you, because I had a meeting with the guy that runs it about a month ago, because I wanted to inquire how big a booth, a stall would be. Way too expensive for me. And he emailed me and was like, oh, would you like a free ticket? So I had this free ticket. So obviously you were the first person I messaged you and was like, yeah, you got to come. But obviously, sadly, you couldn't. And I could not find another UK podcast that was free to take my free ticket. So it ended up going to waste, which was really sad. But closer to the time, like next year when they do on 2023, we need to be a bit more organized, and we need to get every UK podcast that we know to go down there. Yep.
I'm planning on, so need to know when it is, then I'll book that time off and I'll go, and I will do live on the spot podcast, I think.
That's definitely do it. There was a couple of booths there. Me and T didn't take up the opportunity because we didn't know they'd be there. There's a couple of booths where companies that owned studio spaces, like in London, and were trying to advertise that, they brought their decks and stuff with them, like you can record a live podcast here, so you could do that. But I might have the dates for next year's one. I think they might have sent it to me. So for 2023, it's going to be the 24th and 25th of May.
Right. Okay. Same place.
Business Design Centre, Islington, London.
Yeah.
But they, over the night time, the whole week, the 22nd to the 28th, in the evening, they have loads of live podcast events.
Cool.
Where certain popular podcasters will perform their podcast live. Yeah, you can get like separate tickets too.
That'd be cool. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it'd be interesting for me to go next year and to do that, so that basically I'll just collar anybody that I can, and then have a quick chat with them there and post it up as soon as I can on like YouTube or something.
That's a great idea. Yeah, get on that. 100%. I'll see you there. I'll do one with you.
Excellent.
Perfect.
We can collar them all together.
Yeah.
I mean, you've preempted something I was going to ask, which is, did you meet any new people and make any friends there?
Yeah, well, I managed to, after they gave their talk that about those small ones, I managed to talk to one of them, the D&D one, Royal Britannia. And I've been messaging one of them on Twitter the past couple of days. They're going to listen to our podcast, which is nice. Yeah. But I managed to, there's a couple other small podcasters that I talked to and stuff like that. I managed to have a good chat with a couple of staff members from Acast. Yeah. And I've got a friend, Abby, her name is, lovely girl. She works at Sony Music. She does the podcast division there. So I managed to have a nice chat with her, which was lovely. And a really big one, which I'm quite happy about, is I managed to meet a guy from Warner Brothers, and they're just starting a podcast division. And so he said he's going to take my podcast away and show that to the people there. So hopefully they love it at Warner Brothers and want to grab it. That'd be nice, because I want to, towards the end of the year, I'd love to pitch Court Case at a couple studios or something and try and get like studio backing. That would be nice. But yeah, no, there was quite a few different people we met. It's just networking. I don't know if you've ever been to like a networking event before, but it can be quite daunting sometimes to, you know, work up because you've just got loads of people talking amongst yourselves. You just got to have the balls to just walk up to random people, just be like, hello.
Yeah.
And it can be quite daunting at times. But no, it was really good. It was really good.
Absolutely. So what actual ideas did you take away from there then, that you mentioned that it inspired you going there? What sort of things did you take from it? Well,
in terms of like some of the talks, like the way that Finding My Tribe talk inspired me was, it made me feel like, so sometimes when I'm doing I love doing court case, and it is my dream for it to go as far as I can make it. But you do start, I mean, you probably feel the same. You do have sometimes where you feel like, this is all futile. No one's going to fucking listen, like whatever. But I took away from that talk now, be like, maybe they will, like at some point, maybe they will. If these podcasts about bloody women's beer can get 2 million listeners, then if I constantly work at this, then someone will, you know. And we have gotten good listeners with Court Case. I just looked today. I have no idea. I literally, just before this call started, I had a frantic call with Sweet Tea, because I looked at my analytics on Acast, and the past 30 days we've gone up by 9,000 listeners.
Wow.
And I don't know how. I can't figure. I've scoured the analytics quickly before I came on the call with you. A lot of the listeners seem to be from Belgium, but I don't know. I don't know how that's happened. I've not bought any listeners. I've not done anything new. We've been carrying on Instagram and stuff, doing a little bit of TikTok. I don't know. I don't know how we've suddenly had this huge influx of listeners
in Belgium.
In Belgium, of all places. I don't know, but obviously that was an amazing. So I'm on a bit of a high today, but so that inspired me from that talk. And there was just also a lot of the people and just the community sort of feel that there was at the podcast show. It just made me feel a lot more like, this is definitely what I want to do. This is what I enjoy doing. These are like my people, sort of thing. It just, I just felt at home, and it just made me feel really, really happy, you know?
Yeah. But then we've had that sort of feeling anyway, me and you, by being in groups online on Instagram, for instance, you know, where we chat with other people, you know, in chat groups. So I mean, it's strange, because there's no competition between any of us, even those of us that do similar shows. We back each other up, and we're like friends with them.
100%. And there's been a nice bit of renewed interest in that, because we created a new group chat recently, which has been a bit more active, which has been nice. And I recently sent, I hope he's received it. Me and T sent Jack from Bad Council a card over to Florida, because obviously he's feeling quite under the weather at the moment. But I know it's great having that online community feeling, but there was just something different about seeing it in real life. Which is why it would be amazing if as many people as possible could come to it like next year. And like, there were people that were flying over from places like South Korea and America and stuff to come to this podcast event. So like, we should try and get people like Bad Council and that to fly over from Florida and come and see it. I'd love it.
You know, I've just had an idea there, don't
you?
They need a live Bad Council from there.
Oh, amazing. That'd be incredible. Just them on tour, the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, God,
That'd be so
that'd
funny.
change. That'd open everybody's eyes in the UK.
It would, yeah.
So you've got the atmosphere, got the merchandising. I mean, I'm guessing that all these stalls had lots of merchandise.
Yes, they did. Yeah, there was quite a few stalls for like sound equipment and amazing sound equipment. We went to, what was the place? Sontronics was a place we went to. Their gear, and they let us test them out. Their mics are amazing. If I once I move into my new place, I'm thinking of purchasing a couple of theirs. And what else was there? There was a new podcast hosting site called Captivate. I got a cup from them there. They sounded quite good. They've got some features that aren't on other ones. Like there's this they've got this feature on theirs where you can pre-make any show notes, like the description of your podcast episodes. If you have anything that is always in every single show note, like links to something, you can have that in a dedicated place. It will automatically put it on. And also you can it will automatically set, if you've got a guest on your podcast, it'll automatically send a form to them where they can fill out the whole, where can you find me? What am I promoting thing? And it'll automatically put that on the show notes as well. So it seems like it's a podcast hosting site that's all about streamlining the process, which is something I'll investigate. I don't know if I'm ready to migrate to another one right now, since I'm quite enjoying Acast. But it's definitely something worth looking into.
Well, I can understand the Acast thing. I mean, they are the people who the BBC use, for instance. All their shows go through, and the Naked Scientist, all those go through Acast. It's amazing how many people actually go through Acast.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm guessing that if one comes up abroad, then you're in like Flynn.
Yeah, if depending on my financial situation.
But
if there was like a podcast event in like America or somewhere else in Europe, like Paris or something, perhaps I'd be well up for going. I think it'd be wicked. And also finally, apparently Belgium, there needs to be a podcast event in Belgium now. But I would love it. I want to go to as many of these as possible. I hope there's loads. I'm going to the British Podcast Awards. In the nominations are announced in June, and the actual event is in July, because I submitted both Court Case and my work podcast for awards. So hopefully they get nominated. And it's done, the British Podcast Awards are done by a panel of judges. It's not done by public vote. So it's not a popularity contest, which is what I like. But it's a prestigious award, and it gets you publicity, and it looks very good on your podcast if you even get nominated. So I'm going to that. The nominations are announced on the 20th of June, and the event is the 21st or 22nd of July. So that will be another sort of podcast networking event. And I think they have a sort of festival called Grow on the 22nd and 23rd. I'll have to try and send you the link, where I think anyone can get tickets for, but that's like a podcasting event, sort of like the podcast show, where it's not just about the awards, it's about networking, and there's events, and there'll be stands like Spotify, whatever. So that could be worth it. And I believe that's like an outdoor one, because it's going to be right in the height of summer. So that could be quite fun. But I will send you the details for that one as well.
That'd be great. So tips, go again, standout moments. Would you go abroad for one? What was the atmosphere like? Merchandise, any ideas you took away, which is basically tips?
I've got some tips actually.
Go on.
We spoke to a guy that a professional in sort of tutoring podcasters and podcast promotion, and he said that like if the personality of the interviewer is like really important. So if you're a podcast that has guests on regularly, you want say for example, your guest is Jeff Goldblum, I don't know. You want your podcast to, when people see it, they won't go, oh, cool, that's a podcast with Jeff Goldblum. They'll go, oh, cool, that's a podcast where Marv is interviewing Jeff Goldblum. You know, that you want to be just as important as the guest. And so they said that it's very important that you work on your interviewing and your personality and stuff like that. And sometimes it's good to have a little section like before the interview where you're talking to yourself or your co-host and you're discussing the guest that's going to come on, so that you can get your sort of personality and your thoughts and stuff into it before the actual interview happens. That's a good way of sort of cultivating that. So that's a tip that I learned for anyone that does like guest related podcasts.
Yep. Okay. Have you got any tips for people for if they go to an event themselves, to one of these conventions?
Yeah. Take some sort of merchandise or something to promote your podcast. So like went on Vistaprint and I got like 150 court case leaflets printed. Yep. I still got a crap ton left over. I need to figure out where I should take those. And I would just hand them out, because then anyone that I met, anyone that I talked to, bosh, this is what I'm doing, this is mine.
Yep.
Really important for networking. Just go there with an open mind is the thing. Like, it's sort of, some of it is sort of like, you know, when you're walking down the high street and you get inundated with those annoying charity people that try and get in your face. You know, some of it is going to be like that. There's going to be people from booths that are just going to come up to you and be like, hi, you know, this is what we're about. Just humor them. You never know what you might find. There's one guy that we were walking down and he just, you know, he came up to us and said, hello, check out our booth. And like, I wasn't particularly in the mood, but I went over there and they're a really good podcast promotion company that have podcast promoting ideas that I hadn't really thought of. And they do like this subscription service for podcast promotion, which most people don't do. You literally just pay like a bulk $2,000 or something for promotion. They do like a, you know, called Pod Spike, I believe the name was. So you know, you just got to go with an open mind. Just sort of say, if someone comes up to you and says, you know, hello, just engage in conversation, be your friendliest that you can be, and just treat it as a fun day. You're going to learn a lot, but just treat it as a nice, fun couple days out.
Yeah, so go there with an open mind and be ready to learn new things and to find out things, because in all walks of life, you don't know everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, and you definitely recommend that more people go to them, because I mean, it's a growing industry, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there was a huge turnout for this one, huge.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an audience for it already. But the more people that turn up, the more sort of the more of these events happen. And you know, I'd love to go to multiple of them a year. But yeah, sorry, mine went away with me there. Yeah, no, it's an amazing thing. There's definitely a huge audience for it. So yeah, it's awesome.
Cool. Anyway, before we go, we'll do my usual, which is, what is there anything at the moment that you're listening to that's really, you know, grabbing your attention show wise?
Yeah, I'm going to promote the guys that I talked to that Roll Britannia. They do a podcast where they don't know anything about D&D, but they just start playing Dungeons and Dragons, and which is quite funny and amusing. I like sort of shows where amateurs just try things, whether they're going to be good or not. And another podcast that I really enjoy listening to at the moment is Rob Brydon has got a podcast where he talks to people, and he recently talked to Rick Astley. Okay. And that was a really good, really just insightful chat. They discussed the meme Rick rolling with him, and like how like Never Gonna Give You Up came about and stuff like that. And I just found that a really interesting podcast. So I'm going to suggest those two.
Cool. If you catch it on YouTube, there's a version of Never Gonna Give You Up where he sings it with Foo Fighters.
Oh, wicked. I did not know that.
Absolutely.
I've got to search that. Oh, and so straight after this,
he swears like a trooper.
Insane.
But anyway, this was cool. I was nervous about this.
Really? Oh no, you shouldn't have been.
Something different. Put yourself out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
this was cool. Anyway, thanks a lot, mate.
No worries at all.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for listening. And actually, I've missed it. Go on then. Tell everybody where to find you.
Yes. Well, my name is James Court. I do the Court Case podcast, so you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of the places. And our main port of call is our Instagram, which is at Court Case Podcast. So please follow us on there and like and share all the stuff you see.
Right. I'm going to go and grab myself a coffee because I've been awake since yesterday.
Jesus. Okay. Yeah, you need one.
Anyway, you can find Pods Like Us on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and you can contact us on podslikeus@gmail.com. And thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us. That worked.
Hey, good stuff. Perfect.
Now I need to work out how to edit video because I'm going to put this up on YouTube.